that people think unicycling is a toy. And so first, these are two pictures I got when I searched unicycling under Microsoft Schoolpark. And these are two questions I'm going to relate to unicycling. So first, I would assume that no one here would dispute that football or golf can be a sport, but by raising of hands, would anyone say unicycling can be a sport? Really? Okay. Well, unexpected, yeah, a very special class here. Would think of unicycling as something closer to what they see in football pictures, juggling or a circus clown or street performer. So has anyone before today seen a unicycle in real life? Oh, no way. Okay, so only some of you, right? Most of you guys have not. So most of you guys would just think pictures or what you see maybe when you're a kid you saw in the circus, or when you're in like some urban place and there's a street performer. So these are my concept have. A lot of our knowledge comes from what we see or experience in real life, and that makes up a large portion of what we believe. However, the majority of you only have slim exposure to unicycles in real life, and not that I'm an expert or anything. But so how can we make our perception or ideas about how interesting or safe a unicycle is if you haven't experienced it? So for example, something we see every day is cars. You get in the car and a large 3-ton mass of metal, but because it's so common, you don't really think about like the engine. You don't hear it and wonder if that 50 horsepower thing will crash you into a tree at 50 miles per hour. And so I think enough exposure to something becomes a more normal part of your life. And on the contrary, something that you've never tried or haven't seen before, such as the outside of the well for that frog in the previous picture, it's something that seems more irrelevant to your normal life, and you don't think about it. And you would think that it's more something scary or dangerous, and something you wouldn't, for no reason, approach. So the second issue that we're also susceptible to with sense perception is that the ability of our senses is limited not only in the amount we can experience as inside the well, but also in the detail we can perceive. So we cannot see or feel something. For example, when you walk, it becomes natural to you, and you can't feel which muscles exactly are at work when you're trying to balance. And same thing on the unicycle. And so how does this relate to unicycling? Is that I can say from my perspective that balancing has now become easy for me. It's become a process that it's more natural to me. So how can I have this notion that it's easy? So the problem is that I cannot perceive how I'm staying balanced anymore. It's more innate action. And it's not just whether I try to pay attention to me riding or that I'm just riding for fun. It's my senses cannot actively process everything that's going on around me. So for example, when in real life, your sense of eyesight can only process so much of the light spectrum. And so now it's easy for me to ride, but my perspective is skewed and not complete. So I can't describe the difficulty of riding from a neutral perspective. So the balancing part of unicycling is still there, and I'm still doing it, except that it's completely different than before I knew how to ride. So why is it important to know that the sense perception is lacking? So about 2 weeks ago, I tried to convince Justin Ong to buy a unicycle because I had mine for about 4 weeks already. But I have to know that his knowledge of unicycling is limited by what he has experienced in the past, that he may think unicycling is just a toy or it's unmanly. But from my perspective, that I also have to know that since I can ride, that my perspective is not completely neutral and is biased, and that I might be oversimplifying things when I'm trying to explain to him. So to overcome my problem, I would have to get him more exposure to unicycling, maybe show videos, and that I also have to make sure I watch myself and not overly bias my opinions. So we're left with this question. So should stereotypes be addressed? So first, to address this question, I'm going to demystify the stereotypes of unicycling and show you other aspects different from the normal notion of unicycling. So I'll talk about some different functions and purpose of unicycling from different points of view, as well as how the stereotypes can cause problems in real life. So there are people who actually ride unicycles to do tricks. Well, I can't do any of that yet because I've only been riding for a month. But so this is like skateboarding. would anyone think this is art or sport? Does anyone skateboard? Do you think it's art? A little, yeah. Yeah. So, well, so based on this picture, I'll give my first opinion that because you can feel free to disagree, but that since you're on one wheel, I think it's a sport and an art because it's demanding on the body and it's one wheel. So, however, I also present both sides how it can be either more of an art or more of a sport, depending on the rider's intent. So from this picture, there's expression and skill and beauty and balance. So it can be justified that then you agree that this is a type of art based on the writer's intent to show off moves and make it artistic in the performance. So I believe that the intent or purpose of the artist or the art piece is what makes it art. And I do think a lot of art, unicycling including, has a purpose. Its function is to show off creativity and quality and emotional feelings. So a big portion of art is also devoted to being attracted to other people. And however, that is only more for to help build the art community and appreciation for the art, so that the art style can help be preserved. However, it's not a necessity for categorizing something as art. And now in these pictures, you can see that unicycling can also be very physically demanding, similar to other sports like mountain biking. And from these riders' perspective, they are working out their body and challenging themselves with the intent of a physical workout and challenge, not more of less of a intent of being artistic and valued. So these unicyclists, so based on stereotypes, these unicyclists would not want to be categorized as clowns just because they have a unicycle. So now that I analyzed the various unicyclings, why else may this be an issue that would require attention? So the question I'm going to raise is, where are unicycles allowed? So according to California law, anything with one or more wheels driven by human power using a belt, chain, or gear is considered a bike. So my unicycle is direct drive, so it has no belts, no gears, and so it'd be categorized with skateboards and scooters as a pedestrian. However, there's less standard unicycles. Like these have chains and gears, so they'd be considered bicycles. And I understand they shouldn't be allowed on sidewalks like bikes, so they might be dangerous. But they shouldn't be allowed on the streets either, in the bike lane. And this, even though it looks like a normal unicycle like mine, that actually has a gear in the middle that allows the rider to have more control over their speed. So that would also be categorized as a bike. So the previous one was a 26-inch diameter wheel, and this is a 36-inch diameter unicycle. So with the bigger wheel, you can go faster, but you also have less control. However, since this is also a direct drive unicycle, we categorize it not as a bike, but with scooters and belong on the sidewalk. So do they belong on the sidewalk or on the street? From the government perspective, usually, they're not common enough, or are there enough cases of unicycle problems for it to make it necessary to amend the law to restrict unicycles. And from my personal perspective and other unicyclists, I understand that there's many types of unicycles, and in varying usage, that it might be clumsy or hard to try to govern all types of it. However, even with this umbrella of lenience under the law, misconceptions of unicycles have caused problems. So there have been various cases of unicyclists being given tickets by policemen for riding their bikes on the sidewalk. Even though by common sense and by law they're not bicycles. And there's also been cases where people riding unicycles in the bike lane have been stopped by policemen for riding their toys, and that they're not allowed, even though they're going maybe 2 or 3 times faster than what a kid's unicycle can do. So it'd be unfair to categorize them in the same category. So in my opinion, these misconceptions and stereotypes can only be cast off if the general public becomes more aware of the different aspects of unicycling, which is unlikely to occur in the near future. But therefore, my conclusion is that people should always be aware that their knowledge may be incomplete when making their judgments. But until unicycling becomes more widespread, cyclists need to be self-aware of their problems and aware that of the possible existing barriers between them and non-riders. As long as nothing problematic occurs due to a stereotype, or unless someone asks you honestly and inquires you about some knowledge or stereotype that you know about, then not just unicycling, but any stereotype, then I think it could be just left at rest and dealt with on the personal individual level. So thank you very much. And I also have a short video.